Hey, my name is Jerry Lawrence, and today I'll be talking about blockchain accounting. Blockchain accounting is a new technology that's being implemented in the accounting firms in order to help maintain ledgers, track transactions, and also track your assets. So, if you're following along with me in the PowerPoint, I'm on the page right now where there's the first example, and it shows the ABC Telecommunications selling a smartphone to a customer for $300, and the cost of the smartphone to make is $50. So the examples that I provided in the PowerPoint are showing you the differences between the accounting traditional way, the way that this is being used now, versus a way of blockchain technology. So with this one, it's showing that it's a more extended process. So the customer they make the purchase to buy the cell phone, and then it gets put into the accounting software. From there, it gets sent over to the billing team, and then the billing team is then in charge of uploading that information to a ledger and also sending that invoice that they just created over to the customer. And typically, it seems that it's a 5-day process versus using blockchain, which is a quicker, more efficient way of doing it, and then it eliminates that middleman. So the customer, they make the transaction, and then it goes straight into the blockchain accounting software, and then they create the invoice. The invoice gets sent straight to the customer, and it also is being uploaded straight to a ledger. So it's eliminating that one step. Excuse me. So that brings me to my next slide, which says who should use blockchain. Well, blockchain will be most effective for accountants, obviously for accountants, because it's beneficial when you are dealing with multiple entries for a certain company, or maybe you're doing your ledgers for an individual. It'll also be helpful for an auditor. Auditors are in charge of going in, excuse me again, they're responsible for going in and verifying each transaction and going in, making sure that the correct amount was sent, the correct product was delivered out, and then the company will update how much inventory they had. So that's the auditor's job. It'll also be effective if you are doing multiple transactions with multiple companies, because if you could just imagine with my first examples that I provided, the time that it takes to just do one entry to have to do entire entries for a month, you can see how it could be time consuming. It could also be challenging, because if you mess up on one entry, then it takes a whole process just to go back and find where the entry was. You have to start all the way over, find where the mistake was, and then see if it balances out again. So it could be time consuming. It could be a process. And it also is efficient if you need to maintain your records for an extended period of time. So you may be thinking, why should I use blockchain? Well, blockchain is very transparent. So that means whatever terms you set when you first made the purchase, that's what it is throughout the entire process. And you also are in control of who has access, so that would eliminate the risk of hackers. Blockchain has great traceability, which means that it can pinpoint where the transaction was made from, what the transaction was for, all in one system, versus having to go to multiple outlets to try to find out the information. It's quicker than the traditional methods, as you have to go in and do everything manually and do the data entry, where it's more susceptible for making a mistake. And once again, if you make a mistake, it'd be very time consuming to find out where it was. And it also reduces costs. So if you think about it, if in traditional methods, if we have to take the time to go back and continue to find out where the problems was, that could lead to overtime. So you could cut back on having to spend that money for overtime by implementing blockchain technology. You could also eliminate having to purchase the software to help you find the error. So that brings me into the frequently asked questions. Number one that I have on the PowerPoint is, will blockchain push traditional accountants out of the profession? The answer is no, absolutely not. You still have to have accountants just for smaller firms or individuals who like to keep track of their ledgers. Accountants would be beneficial. Instead of having to pay so much money for blockchain, you can just have your regular accountant do this for you. The next one is, how secure is blockchain? Well, like I said earlier, you were in charge of who has access. So typically it would be between the two parties and then the auditors. Those would be the only people who have access. And plus, it would take longer for a hacker to breach into the software in order to get your information. And it will also cost more, being blockchain is a newer technology. It's being more secure by day. Like, I can't imagine it getting to a point where it's not being constantly updated, to where hackers can just easily intrude. And then the next question is, why invest in blockchain when accountants could just do things themselves? Well, if you had one accountant for a bigger company, like I said, it could be more time consuming, and then it's also more susceptible for errors. You could eliminate that by just investing in blockchain, and then you won't have to worry about errors. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you.